For the second time this season, NASCAR had to postpone their Monster Energy Cup Series race to a Monday due to rain. It was race day Monday at Michigan International Speedway for the 100th Cup race at the 2-mile track. Ford driver Joey Logano had the pole for the race, and he showed all race long why he was dominating the rest of the field and parked his Mustang in victory lane for his 23rd Cup win. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Ross Racing on our 100th episode of the RO Sports Show, brought to you by Rockingham Dragway. I'm Matt Harrelson, joined by Russell Parker, who is of course wearing the Logano jacket this week. So, starting off, Russell, how did the 2019 champion get the job done at the home track of his manufacturer?
Well, I think it all started out with kind of like a Roger Penske and Ford coming up to Logano and saying, hey, you better win this race because this is one of their most important races here.
No pressure.
Of course, Ford has been out of Detroit, Michigan, so Motor City is not too far away from the track. And it's kind of like, Ford's Daytona 500, if you will, because they want to win this race. This is a very special race for them. And, of course, being the 100th one, they've had a lot of success at this track in the past. Roger Penske also was a previous owner of that track. So to have some of that going into it, I think the pressure is on to you, especially as a Ford Penske driver, to get the job done here. And Logano came in swinging hard. He got the pole for the race. He continued on all day long, over 100. I think 137 laps over that. He led. Nobody really had it on him. They tried to make a pass on the inside. He wouldn't let him get down there. Outside, there was no way to make it happen. A late restart happened with him and Truex side by side. I know it's kind of continuing to happen over and over with them too. But it was Joey Logano who finally got the upper hand this time around this season against Truex and took it to victory lane, got the job done.
All right, so you mentioned the overtime NASCAR went into, and there was some controversy about it after the end of the race when Martin Truex Jr. said that he wasn't sure how Logano got away with it, which leads us to believe that Logano may have jumped the restart too early or got a head start. NASCAR, however, has come out, said they saw nothing wrong with it. What's your take?
Well, I know I'm wearing all this Logano stuff. I'm going to do this the most unbiased way possible here. Truex, I think he had a fair point in the way he said. It looked like that Logano may have jumped the restart. But here's the thing: Logano was first, and the leader controls the restart, and you got to restart zone. I think as long as I think Logano had jumped it probably at the right time to where the point that NASCAR couldn't make a call on it because it was right there on the line. I won't call it cheating. I would say he did it bleeding into the rules where it's just to a point where he did it so perfectly that you just couldn't ask for a better restart. It was so perfect that no one's ever seen it like that before. Getting a little upper hand, gassing it just a little bit right before the restart. I think as long as you're going the right speed before you get into it, I think you're fine. But yeah, Logano's been restarting all race long. He knows what he's been doing for that track all day. He continued time and time again to win on restarts. I don't know. I think maybe Truex got caught sleeping a little bit. Maybe he should have been a little more focused on what Logano was doing and try to keep up with him side by side. Because, like I said, the leader controls the restart, and you really want two good opportunities to try and take it away from them when you're getting to that restart zone.
Well, there's an old saying in sports: if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And I personally see nothing wrong with trying to push the envelope a little bit. But to me, it sounds like Truex is a little more worried about Logano than worried about himself and what he's doing.
Yeah, and I can understand the frustration with him about he thought he had it. But yeah, you can't really continue to focus on what happened. Now, of course, this interview was taking place directly after the race, so
sure.
Emotions are still high.
Right.
You're thinking you're saying things without thinking. So I don't know, maybe. But NASCAR went back and looked at it. The camera angles I was seeing, it does look like Logano may have went too fast. But, you don't have the perfect alignment of that camera angle on the restart zone. So maybe what NASCAR can do in the future, unless they already do this and anything sharing the camera, but maybe have a camera that's running down the two restart lines to determine these type of things in the future. They do this with pit road at the exit of it, determine who comes out first. maybe they didn't do that for the restart zone as well.
Yeah, and in this day and age, there's usually cameras everywhere in any sporting event, so maybe they'll add that in the future. But it was fitting that Logano would win the 100th race of Michigan for Ford, as the Blue Oval had the first victory at the track with a 69 Mercury driven by Cale Yarborough. So how important is the manufacturer rivalry in NASCAR that if you're driving a Ford, no matter what happens all season, you better win at Michigan?
Yeah, like I said earlier, this is Ford's home track, if you will. For Ford, Chevrolet, those are kind of the top two guys when it comes to a manufacturer rivalry in NASCAR. Toyota came in not too long ago, and people are still kind of hating on Toyota just a little bit. But, overall, Toyota has come in and made a huge impact in NASCAR to the point where now you got a lot of big fans on their side. So now you got a three-way manufacturer battle. Makes it a lot of fun. And Dodge was there for a while, too. A lot of people still want Dodge to come back. And there's people who are just simply loyal to the point. And, it's just, NASCAR relies a lot on rivalries to continue, their attention on them. And manufacturers is Ford and Chevy is obviously going to be the biggest one of all of them.
Sure thing. And I know we've touched about this on past shows, but are fans really that loyal to a brand?
Yeah, so my uncle is a good example of this. He was a Rusty Wallace fan until he left Chevrolet and went to Penske, which I believe was driving. I think he was driving a Ford at the time, or maybe it was Dodge. Can't remember. When he left there. My uncle just completely left him and went to Gordon as a Chevrolet driver, and it's kind of been that way ever since with him. I've tried to convert him to a Logano fan. He says he would if he drove a Chevy. So I guess if Logano wanted another fan, I guess he can go to Chevy, but. I don't care personally. I'm a big, huge Ford lover. I drive a Toyota, and I've owned Chevys and Dodges in the past. So I'm still trying to get Ford, but I think for me personally, it's wherever your driver goes, I'm gonna follow. But some people, like Kevin Harvick, for example, he left from Chevy to Ford. A lot of people left Harvick because of that reason. They found a new Chevy driver. So I think it's just Chevy drivers that has a problem with it, not really anybody else.
Well, I've got a Ford if you really want one.
No, I'm good on that one.
No, I don't blame you. I don't think anybody wants it, including me. But before we move on, I kind of want to piggyback off of that real quick. Which one is more important? It doesn't seem like you really care, but to most NASCAR fans, which is more important, the driver you pull for or the car they drive?
I think it starts with manufacturer because, everyone has a favorite brand, whether you're a NASCAR fan or not. You like a certain type of vehicle. So when you look at it and you say you like Chevrolet, you drive Chevrolet all your life, you say, okay, out of these drivers that drive Chevy, who am I picking? It's kind of how it goes. Me being a Ford fan at the same time, I was kind of pushed to other drivers. The Roush guys I was pretty big on. At the time, Logano was driving Toyota, and I wasn't completely on board with him, and then he got into the Ford, and it kind of led me into it. But if he switches today, it wouldn't matter to me.
All right. Well, speaking of picking drivers, it's time for us to pick drivers in the groove. Who you got this week?
Well, I've got Ryan Newman for the Cup race. He started 18th, finished 8th. He hasn't been making a lot of noise except for back at the All-Star race with him and Clint Boyer, but he's finally getting some punches on the track now to make up for what happened then. And for the Xfinity Series, I got Chase Briscoe, who started 14th, finished 7th, the top 10 for him. And, I think he's doing a pretty good job this season as well. We'll get to him here in a little bit. For the Truck Series, I've got Greg Biffle, a name many people are familiar with in the Cup Series. Mm-hmm. And he left a few years ago. He left the 16 car for Roush. He finally came back, drove the 51 truck for Kyle Busch, and got the win. Started 6th, got the win. He's also a former Truck Series champion back in 2000, so he obviously knows where he's been at. But for the first time being in a truck and actually in a NASCAR race car in so many years, getting the win is pretty big.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think he stepped away?
There's a number of reasons why people will step away. Carl Edwards stepped away for some personal reasons. Some of them feel like it's time for them to retire, of course, and then other opportunities out there. Mayor's not doing well in their rides. Maybe Greg Biffle probably didn't think that his ride was very well back at Roush. Roush was kind of in a down time at that point as well when he left. So maybe it has something to do with it. But I think, as Greg Biffle, maybe he'll come back into sport full time. Kyle Busch called himself a genius, though, picking him up for this race, though.
Well, seems like that worked out for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as the Cup Series takes a break from on-track action this Father's Day, the Xfinity and Truck Series will have their week to shine at Iowa Speedway. So the 7/8 of a mile flat oval will kick things off for the Truck Series on Saturday tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Russell, what's the story that's been unfolding in 2019 for the Young Bucks?
Yeah, so the Truck Series, ever since Kyle Busch has finally started letting them guys win again, it's been a lot more exciting to watch for me personally. You got different guys running up front constantly. You got Grant Enfinger, who's leading the points right now over Stuart Friesen. You've got a lot of different young drivers that are in that mix. Matt Crafton, Ross Chastain, so many different truck drivers that are running really hard for the points lead. And just to keep themselves into the playoff picture, because now that Kyle Busch can't come back to the series to win after his 6 races, now everybody's clamoring for those final few races that got left before the playoff starts to gain some extra points. And it's gonna be really hectic for some of these drivers as we get closer to Bristol, which will be the cutoff race before the playoffs begin. So I think you're going to see the action pick up a lot more as the season progresses.
Well, I can't believe we're already getting that close to playoff time. Where has the time gone? Well, for the Xfinity Series, we have a 5:30 p.m. start time on Sunday for their race in the Hawkeye State. Now, what is this one looking like for the Father's Day special?
Yeah, so this is actually the 19th race the Xfinity Series has ever been to for Iowa, and there's been 13 different winners out of that. So
Wow.
You're looking at a very variety of drivers who could win this race. It's also pretty favorable to those who haven't won yet this season. For example, Justin Allgaier, who has not won yet this season, I think he could potentially be a threat to that because he hasn't won all season, but he has won there before. You're not used to seeing repeat winners, but I think between him and Christopher Bell, it's hard to go against those drivers right there when it comes to Iowa. They're both past winners. Of course, Christopher Bell has so many wins now at this point, so that's what I'm thinking that you're going to see Justin Allgaier come out of it. But I would still say watch out for the rest of the junior motorsport drivers as well that are going to be in that field, like Michael Annette. I think you're going to see a lot of those top drivers come into play.
All right, well, we'll get some predictions for those here in just a moment. But before we get to that, let's go to the Rock Block. Of course, brought to you by Rockingham Dragway. And as usual, plenty of stuff going on at the Dragway for this weekend. The 20th anniversary of the Smokeout is taking place.
Yeah.
Always a huge time out there. And I'm just going to read this, kind of got a little write-up here for it. Where there's smoke, there's fun. And that's the mantra of the Smokeout Bike Rally, which is taking place this weekend. Starting today, entices bikers of all ages, genders, nationalities, skills, and skin ink persuasions to Rockingham Dragway again for, like I said, the 20th annual celebration of the American Chopper and those who love it. So drag racing, drifting, mini bike racing, ride-in chopper show, body painting, and bands, actually lots of bands, including Little Ozzy, which is the Ozzy Osbourne tribute band. We've got D.B. Bryant, which is the opening act for Leonard Skinner, Kid Rock, and Big and Rich, among others. We've also got Small Town Titans, Framing the Red, and a band that I've never heard of, but I love the name, called Dr. Bacon. I love
who
it.
I think will be out there. I think our managing editor, Will Toller, who loves music, I think he's going to be out there for this for sure.
Sounds good. We'll definitely get some
I'm
photos.
going to be out for the racing. I love racing.
There you go. But if you want to go, it started at noon today. But if you still want to head out there, there's plenty of time. If you want to get the 2-day admission, that will be $40. Or if you just want to head out tomorrow, it's going to open up at 10 a.m. If you just go tomorrow, that ticket is $35. So in the long run, it actually makes sense to go and get the 2-day pass. But if you want to plan the 2-day excursion, unlike any other, to what the promoters have dubbed the epicenter of the chopper world, head out to the Rockingham Dragway. Weekend camping also available for a fee separate from the admission ticket and can be secured through the Rockingham Dragway website, which is, of course, rockinghamdragway.com. So that is the Rock Block. Make sure to head out there this weekend and every weekend from now until Christmas.
Yeah.
Plenty of stuff going on. All right, before we end the show, let's get some predictions. Who you got winning this weekend?
For the Truck Series on Saturday, I've got Ross Chastain, who's going to win this one. I think it's a very fitting track for him to come in and get him a win this season. I just overall believe that he's good. I mean, Grant Enfinger, sure, he got the points lead, but you can't just solely rely on the top dog to win every race. That's not how the Truck Series works around here. For the Xfinity Series, I got Justin Allgaier. Like I said earlier, he's not won. I think the stakes are in his favor because he hasn't won, but the track favors those who have not won this season. And overall, I mean, between him and Christopher Bell, I think Justin Allgaier probably has the best chance of winning this one among repeat winners. So Justin Allgaier is taking the checker flag for Iowa.
All right. That it for predictions?
That is it.
All right, so before we officially end the show, as we talked about at the top of the show, this is our 100th edition of the RO Sports Show. Ooh. So it's been quite a ride. Yeah. Anything that sticks out along the way?
Well, we have come a long way from sitting around a microphone like we were at a campfire telling stories. Yes. We've come a long way from that, and I actually almost wore my Alabama shirt from the very first episode, but Logano won, so I had to make some exceptions. But, from that, and I really enjoyed our interviews we've had on here as well with Scott Emerson, of course, Joseph Lombard. We've had some pretty cool interviews and some cool guests that come on the show and get their opinions about the things that are going on. And we've had so many different unique visitors to the show. And I think one of my favorite things maybe right now is just kind of I don't know. There's so many different things we've done. I can't really take what my favorite is.
Well, I can tell you some of my favorites. First off, the RO Invitationals that we've done at the old office when we did the mini golf challenge. Yeah. What else we do with the RO Invitational?
We've also did disc golf one.
Disc golf, yeah, and of course you guys took care of the disc golf tournament, which turned out great. Yeah. We were of course a part of that. The shows we've done, the wrestling shows out at the Rescue Squad has been a lot of fun. And I'm right there with you. Some of the guests we've had have been great. I'm thinking we had Tyrone Crowder, who plays for Clemson, Sean Pollard, another Clemson player, who got guys that have played in the national championship against your Alabama Crimson Tide. So it's just been a lot of fun, and I'm with you. It's amazing to see how far we've come in 100 shows, and I'm excited to see where we go over the next 100.
Yeah, and even from the national standpoint all the way down to the local point, I feel like we've been doing a pretty good job at covering all aspects of the sports, and I really have enjoyed, especially with the Raider wrap-up. That's been a lot of fun, especially right before Friday Night Football comes up, and just getting everybody in Richland County hyped up for the event before it comes up. I think it's been a really exciting ride so far we've had.
Yeah, and I think we've done I'm just going to piggyback off what you said. I think we've done a great job of, creating Ross Racing, creating the Ross Rundown, which covers national sports, covering the Raider Wrap-Up, covering Raider sports, not just football, but all of the sports there on campus. The college football bowl bash out at the bowling alley.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. We've talked about college basketball, a little bit of everything.
We need to do an invitation for the bowling.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do.
We need to do that, and we've also got some mini golf for kids sets at the library that I think we need to take part in, so we'll try to get in on that as well. So
tell us where you want to do the next RO invitation.
Yes, let us know, because we're open to suggestions all the time. So, all right, anything else you want to add?
That's it. It's been a pleasure working with you for the past 100 episodes.
It has definitely been a pleasure, and again, we look forward to the next 100. So for Russell Parker, I'm Matt Harrelson. We'll see you right back here on the track for another edition of Ross Racing.